Hello and welcome to episode 1 of Building Flex Storefront, a video series documenting the development of building an enterprise e-commerce app in Flutter. If you'd like to follow along, we've got links to our GitHub and Discord in the description below. Today, we'll be kicking things off by installing Flutter and getting started with our project.
Hey Nico, how's it going?
Good. Hello viewers.
So, what are we going to be doing today?
Kickoff the open source project we have in mind, which will be Flex Storefront.
Yeah, and so couple questions right off the bat about Flex Storefront. So why did we choose Flutter for this project?
So Flutter is a cross-platform framework. So it means that when using Flutter, you can target both Android and iOS at the same time with one project. And it's cost-effective. It's you spare some time and effort to build a mobile application because you don't have like two projects, one for Android, one for iOS.
Right. Yeah. So I guess traditionally in the e-commerce world, where you're actually looking after two separate native apps, you've got two separate code bases. Things over time may start to diverge, where you've got features built for one or bugs, things that are working in one code base and not necessarily working in the other.
Yes, exactly. The alternative would be to use web. If you use web, you expose yourself to other problems, like the UI and UX doesn't feel really native anymore. And the user can tell that you're on a website in kind of an iframe inside the mobile app.
Right. Yeah, for sure. It does have that webby feel, which is not really what you want when you're browsing a retail experience or a B2B experience within a mobile app. Great. Okay. So with that in the way, so we know we're using Flutter. I think for the backend, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to be using SAP Cloud Commerce or Hybris for those that are in the industry. So we'll have that set up, and maybe we'll do a little video on that in the future, just showing initial installation steps and how we get our Hybris setup running in the back end. But for today, I think we're going to be talking about just getting started from scratch, getting the project kicked off. We might talk a little bit about app architecture, but let's see kind of where we're at right now. So what do we have on your screen here?
Yeah, so I started with the very basic, my terminal. So we can just like do check that Flutter is properly installed. So I do Flutter -- version, and here we go. My SDK is installed. I can also do Flutter Doctor, which is a more in-depth diagnostic. So it will check that I have the right ID set up, the right navigators, etc. Here we go. Everything is, not everything actually. It's not, Flutter is not up to date, but for the purpose of this demo, it will be, actually we can do that because we'll see later that when we create an app, it took the template from the Flutter SDK itself. So it would be better if Flutter is up to date when we are doing that, right?
So you already have Flutter installed on your machine, and now what we're doing is doing a Flutter upgrade to just make sure that we're on the latest stable branch. Is that correct?
Yep, exactly.
Awesome. Okay. And in terms of GitHub, and do we have a repository open right now?
Yep, I added here. So we have created a Flex Storefront repo under our base one organization. So this is an open source public repo. We just have the git ignore license and README file for now.
Great. So we really are starting from scratch.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So get to it. You can do git clone. There we go.
Awesome. Okay. So now we have our repository on your local machine.
Yep.
And we can start to create our Flutter project in there.
Up-to-date version. Yep. I will create the application by using Flutter create command that create a folder. And the problem is we already have a folder. So I will move back one and type Flutter create Flex. I think it took an underscore by convention.
Okay.
Storefront. Here we go. So this generates an app, a Flutter application from a template that is inside the SDK, like I said earlier. And it's a working Flutter application. We can launch that app already on our simulator. For now, we just clear my folder here. So we said that we already had the folder created. So I will move everything inside that folder inside Flex-Storefront like this.
Perfect.
I don't know. Let me check. Yep, seems good. Okay.
Great.
Great. So what we can do now is just push that version, that initial version. So I like to use Grid GUI to do that. So I can just add to commit everything and commit those files.
Great. Our initial Flutter project commit.
Yep. Oh.
Permission denied.
Oh yeah. Can you add me to the?
Is that on me? Yeah.
The writers.
Yeah. And you should be an admin on the project now.
Yeah. Okay. So we can try that again. Yay.
There we go.
Okay. Cool. So we can now open this project by opening a Flutter ID. It could be the VS Code Android Studio. I like to use Android Studio because
I'm a VS Code guy.
IntelliJ. Yeah, I'm used to IntelliJ product, so to JetBrains product. So here we go.
All right, so we're going to open up just kind of the starter Flutter project. I guess you said from the template, and this gives us the counter app, or is it?
Yep. Okay. So here is the project open. So here is the tree of file and folders here. We have one Android, one iOS folders. And those are actually the native application that will host the Flutter application. So those are two native projects, but we barely touch them. Where we actually code is inside the lib folder. And lib folder contain main.dot, which is the entry point of our initial Flutter application.
Okay, so just to reiterate that, so we will be writing our Flutter code in Dart within the lib folder, and then we actually have an Android and iOS build folder where the code will be compiled for those platforms.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's all red, full of errors now because I have to run the dependency management command to download the dependencies. So I'm running flutter pub get. Here we go. We don't have much dependencies for now, but we have at least the Flutter SDK itself. So this dependency is listed in spocpec.yaml, which is a project descriptor for Dart project. Great.
Okay.
Good. So now the errors are gone, and I can run my Dart command, my main file. I can either use the Flutter run command, or I can also use my IDE button here. So I launched the app for iPhone 14 simulator, which is open here. And the entry point of the app is main.dart. So I'm running the play button. And I have to wait a little bit.
Okay, and while that's building for iOS, maybe we can just talk about this PubSpec YAML file. So as you mentioned, we'll be bringing in certain dependencies to here, and that will be downloaded from PubDev, which is the Flutter's kind of open repository of packages. So what are, within kind of a project start, what do you see as kind of the initial packages or things that we would want to do now that the project's launched to get started building commerce application?
If we have a basic idea of what our different screen will be, it could be a good idea to start initiating the navigation. So that first dependency could be the navigation library we are about to use.
Great, okay.
There is a navigation API in Flutter, but it's a bit low level, and we have like convenient dependency navigation library on the dev that could help us implementing our navigation pattern.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm sure there's a few different navigation packages that I'm aware of that we could be bringing in. Do we have a preference in terms of which navigation package we'll bring in?
Let me just interrupt you. We have the app running.
Great. There we go.
So it's just a basic screen, only one screen. It's all defined in main.dart. We have the main function that run this widget, which is the app, the root widget that contains the entire app. And in the build method of that widget, we have other widgets. And we have this home page, and this home page is just below. And this home page is a stateful widget. We come to that later, but its build function has here a scaffold, which is a helper to lay out the different elements of the screen, especially this app bar, for instance. And the body of this page is quite simple. It's a center widget containing a column with two elements, this text and this counter here. I have a floating action button with a press handler, and each time I press the plus action button, it increases the counter.
Great, so a little example of state and stateful widgets, I guess. And I guess the main concept here is that everything within Flutter is a widget. Widgets wrapped in widgets. It's kind of a widget tree to build your screens. Is that correct?
Exactly. And some of our widgets, like most of them actually, are stateless. It means that given the property in the input, they provide the same output in a deterministic way. So the text widget have a string in arguments here, and the output will be like this text showing up. And some of the widgets are stateful. It means that they can have a state. That the example here, where my home page has a counter variable, and that counter variable can be incremented when clicking on the button. And with those two widgets, we can build the entire application.
Nice. Okay, that makes sense. So I think that's good for today. I mean, we've got a project, we've got a kind of a starter template. That code is all pushed and available on our GitHub. I guess we can start talking about next steps then. In your view, I guess, what are those initial next steps that we're going to be taking to kind of, like you said, navigation? What else are we going to be looking at in terms of setting up the project?
So yeah, navigation is one. The other one can be, maybe we can take a look at Firebase. Firebase is a collection of tools that are useful for mobile apps. We have crash reports, we have database, different type of database. We have remote configuration, we have performance tracking, we have a lot of different tools. So Since the past few years, I always set up a Firebase project. As soon as I'm creating a mobile project, I don't even ask myself the question if I need it or not. It's so even just for crash detects, it's so useful that I always use that.
Great.
So that could be
the
next step.
Awesome. All right. Thanks very much for the time, Nico.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Stephen. It was nice. Bye.
Okay, and with that, we have Flutter installed, and we're ready to set up Firebase and navigation within our project. If you have any questions about this project, feel free to leave them in the comments section below. Thanks for joining, and see you next week.